Today is Wednesday, March 26th. What to know about more fallout from that Signal group chat that exposed American officials' thinking ahead of military strikes in Yemen, how the Trump administration is now defending itself. Also, a new deal to stop fighting between Russia and Ukraine, at least somewhat. Plus, which American election rules are changing, why some international athletes now have to take DNA tests before competing. And need an excuse to shop? We'll tell you all about Amazon's big spring sale. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Some of America's top leaders are facing tough questions about what still seems to be a serious national security breach. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz told Fox News he takes full responsibility for organizing a text group on the messaging app Signal. As we mentioned yesterday, the group accidentally leaked plans for American airstrikes on Houthi militants in Yemen to the editor of The Atlantic. Waltz now says he's not sure how that journalist ended up in the group since he didn't have his number saved, and he's looking into it. As for President Trump, he says he still stands by Waltz and that the security breach is just, quote, something that can happen. Separately, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe were questioned by the Senate Intelligence Committee yesterday. And since they were both part of that group chat, they defended it, saying no classified material was shared. But the journalist in that chat says that's not true, that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and others shared information about timing, targets, and weapons systems. And American airstrikes played out exactly as they were discussed on the text thread. Either way, even disclosing non-classified national defense information in a non-secure setting, like on Signal, can violate the Espionage Act. And that's why all those conversations are typically done on secure government channels. So the Trump administration is apparently reconsidering whether it should be using Signal in the future. Meanwhile, lawmakers say they're planning to audit the group chat, something intelligence leaders already agreed to. Both Gabbard and Ratcliffe will face more questions about all of this today, since they're set to appear at the U.S. House for the yearly Worldwide Threats hearing. Ahead of today's hearing, America's spy agencies released their report on the top threats to national security. And this year, fentanyl and the international drug gangs that smuggle it into the U.S. rank among the top threats. In fact, this is the first time fentanyl has been considered an even bigger concern than countries like Iran, North Korea, or Russia. Though that's not to say those countries aren't still considered adversaries along with China. And the threat assessment says they've been acting together more and more to undercut America's interests on the world stage. The report goes into everything from cyber threats to nuclear threats to economic threats. But one topic that was left out of this year's report was climate change, which was included for nearly a decade. In the past, national security leaders said climate programs were necessary to keep Americans safe, since they've included initiatives like making military installations more resilient to extreme weather events. But this year, top officials like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth have argued environmentalism should not be part of their core mission. Today, leaders are expected to talk much more about what they consider to be the top threats and how to make sure the U.S. is well equipped to handle them. Russia and Ukraine seem to be taking another step toward peace. The U.S. says both sides agreed to stop attacks in the Black Sea and make sure vessels can travel through safely so they can resume regular trade routes. Remember, this comes after a separate deal in which both sides agreed to lay off energy targets. But there are details that still need to be worked out. Like the Russian government says it won't commit until countries lift sanctions on Russian banks, food producers, and exporters. The Trump administration says it's working with allies and still considering that part. Ukrainian President Zelensky also accused Russia of lying about terms of the agreement in hopes of manipulating the world into a better deal. Even so, Zelensky said the deal represents the right steps toward peace, and wider ceasefire talks are ongoing. Back in the U.S., President Trump made some big changes to how Americans vote. He signed an executive order to overhaul federal elections. For example, it adds new ID requirements for people who want to register to vote through federal forms. The order also keeps states from being able to count any absentee or mail-in ballots received after Election Day, despite some state laws that allow ballots to be postmarked by Election Day, but received later. And it tasked the Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE, with checking voter registration data to look for inaccuracies. President Trump says the goal is, quote, free, fair, and honest elections unmarred by fraud, errors, or suspicion. But critics call it voter suppression, saying it would make it impossible for tens of millions of American citizens to register to vote, like people who have changed their names or haven't updated their passports. This is a rare case of the federal government exerting its influence over elections, since the Constitution does give that authority to individual states. But to be clear, the responsibility would still fall to the states, even under the order. It just says those that don't comply could have their federal funding cut. Even still, it's expected to face legal challenges. President Trump's sons are cementing their ties to the crypto industry. Their cryptocurrency venture called World Liberty Financial announced it's going to launch a digital token known as a stablecoin that's pegged to the value of the U.S. dollar. Of course, this is not the only way the Trump family has looked to cash in on cryptocurrencies. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump also launched meme coins ahead of the inauguration. The president's social media company, Truth Social, has been expanding into crypto as well. As Politico points out, this all comes as the Trump administration plans to change regulations to benefit the crypto industry, specifically including stablecoins. As for World Liberty Financial, it says the new stablecoin will ensure seamless, secure cross-border transactions. We could hear more later today when executives like Donald Trump Jr. are set to speak at a major crypto conference, so stay tuned. More news is still coming up, but first, this episode of The Newsworthy is sponsored by Skims. My closet is quickly filling up with Skims for all my everyday essentials, including short and long sleeve t-shirts that I reach for almost daily. My latest favorite is the Skims cotton jersey long sleeve tee. It's a form-fitting silhouette that flatters my waist, and I can wear it on its own or use it for layering. So it's perfect for this time of year as we transition into spring. The material is super soft, it's smooth and stretchy, so it's really comfortable and it feels great on. As always, I can throw it on with joggers for a super casual look or dress it up with heels and jewelry, and I always appreciate that versatility. Skims, once again, did not disappoint. The tees live up to the hype. So shop Skims tees as well as their ultimate bra collection and more at skims.com and Skims LA flagship on Sunset Boulevard. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you. You can select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Now, back to the news. The Texas measles outbreak has now grown to nearly 330 confirmed cases, and dozens more people have gotten sick in neighboring states like New Mexico and Oklahoma. Most of the cases are in unvaccinated children. In fact, the Texas Health Department says only 2 cases have happened in people who are fully vaccinated with the measles, mumps, rubella shots. But many families are still hesitant to get the vaccines. And some are now opting for alternative therapies. For example, vitamin A, which the U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has spoken about. The problem is, doctors in West Texas say they've now seen cases of children who were given so much vitamin A that they had signs of liver damage. Some received unsafe doses of cod liver oil and other vitamin A supplements for several weeks in an attempt to prevent measles. Others received it after getting measles, hoping it would act as a treatment, and instead they got more sick. This is why many experts do not recommend people take high doses of vitamin A unless they're under a doctor's supervision. In a hospital setting, the levels are carefully calibrated and have been found to help only in certain circumstances. We actually spoke with an epidemiologist about the measles outbreak, including what the data shows about the use of vitamin A, on our last special edition Saturday. If you want to hear that interview, we've included a link in today's episode notes, or look for Saturday's special edition episode in your podcast feed. Track and field is now the first Olympic sport that's going to make women athletes take DNA tests to confirm they're biologically female. This is a way to make sure transgender women are not eligible to compete. Before this, transgender athletes were only banned from the women's categories if they had gone through male puberty. Now this is going a step further, since the test will be looking for a genetic marker for the Y chromosome that can even be detected at birth. Tests will apparently be non-invasive, like a cheek swab, and athletes should only have to do it once in their career. The governing body for track and field World Athletics says it's all in the name of fairness and integrity of competition. But human rights groups have criticized these rules, saying gender eligibility tests are discriminatory and violate athletes' privacy and dignity. Either way, the new tests could be in place in time for the next World Championships set for September. As most college basketball fans pay attention to what's happening on the court this March Madness, there are some big moves going on behind the scenes. What's known as the coaching carousel is now in full force. In one of the most talked about moves, Texas decided to hire Xavier's head coach just days after Xavier beat Texas in the tournament. In the last few days, other top programs have also announced they're bringing on new coaches for the next season, like Iowa, Minnesota, Columbia, and UNLV. Even before the series of shakeups over the last week, there was a coaching exodus with coaches from Virginia, Miami, Indiana, and Florida State all announcing their retirement this year, and other coaches getting fired. So ESPN says we can expect a lot more college coaching shakeups soon, possibly even before the Sweet 16 games tomorrow night. Amazon's big spring sale kicked off this week, which is basically like the prime day of spring. The difference is this one lasts a full 7 days. You can find deals in almost every category, from clothing to travel, sports, furniture, lawn, technology, and more. You don't have to be a Prime member to shop this sale, but Amazon says Prime members will get more and better deals. You can also set price alerts on the products you want. By the way, Amazon's competitors announced their own big sales this week. For example, at Target, it's called Circle Week. At Walmart, it's Super Savings Week. The deals all last for a few more days. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, this episode is brought to you by Hiya Health. Even in the sometimes chaotic mornings we have trying to get our little kiddo out the door to preschool and us ready for work, there's part of our morning routine that always seems to feel kind of easy. And that's time for our morning vitamins. My 3-year-old is always thrilled to get his Hiya Children's vitamins and probiotic and take them every day. He loves the flavor and the routine of it. And I feel good that he's taking them, since they're formulated with the help of pediatricians and nutritional experts to help support his immunity, energy, brain function, mood, his developing body, and more. And if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with more than 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. And we've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website. So go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. Equal Pay Day was yesterday, bringing attention to the significant pay gap that still exists between men and women. Yesterday's date represented how far into 2025 the average American woman would have to work, on top of all the hours they worked in 2024, just to make the same amount of money a man made last year. To put it another way, women are still earning about 83 cents for every dollar earned by men. And on average, women miss out on an average of more than $14,000 a year as compared to their male counterparts. The pay gap is much worse for women of color, and it widens as women age. All of this is according to the nonprofit Economic Policy Institute, and Census Bureau data from the year before shows a similar picture. Well, thank you so much for listening today and for sharing the show if you find it valuable. You can further support our work here and get access to ad-free episodes by becoming a Newsworthy Insider. You can start your free trial at thenewsworthy.com/insider, and Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to episodes of The Newsworthy ad-free in the Wondery app. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.